They're trying to run while they can walk, doing too much before they've learned the basics. And honestly, this split, you can say they have shored up a lot of those weaknesses, and they're picking better comps. They're also looking for different strategies now that they've learned about map movements and team play, that kind of thing. So Splyce, in general, are looking better.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety, though, for both teams also. We had that featured matchup, Wonder and Steve. That'll be a really interesting one to take a look at. And they do a lot of varied things for their teams. We have Wonder playing 8 different unique champions this split, a mix of those tanks, a mix of the carries. Steve has gone all the way to 10, but the picks and bans, they're coming real fast, so we'll go into that one a little bit later. Bard's banned away, Vladimir, we kind of expect these. The Aurelia is taken away from Wonder, but it's all jungle on the side of Splyce until they follow up with the Shen finally.
So with that Shen being off the board, no Talia ban away from Splyce. The analyst desk were talking about how it could potentially be a flex. Scion bans I'm not expecting quite as many anymore. We had that week or so where people have been banning it away, but still a lot of options. Karma is available. Deficio had a piece earlier about how you've always got to consider that. The Karma, the Sivir that we've seen time and time again, all available for this series.
Yeah, but one thing that's been left out of the pick and ban, or rather the ban pool, it gets snapped up quickly by Schalke, is the Azir. The Emperor goes over to Fox, who has had quite a very good split himself.
He has, but now with 2 junglers banned, I'm looking towards Splyce. Do they want the Rek'Sai in this scenario? Trashy has only played 5 junglers. Rek'Sai has been a 10-time pick for Trashy, so could be another setup for him here. Splyce do have a lot of options. As we said, Karma's still available. Could be an option there if they want the Sivir as well.
And we've seen a lot of Karmas picked in the first rotation. It will be no different this time around. And there is the Rek'Sai. You could call it a comfort pick. I think for Trashy, it's the comfort pick. He seems to look so much better on it. The global pressure he can provide is immense.
It has a lot of dynamics that fit the exact playstyle Trashy wants to do. He wants not only that global pressure, he wants the ability to gank early, the ability to clear fast, and to counter gank if he needs to. Rek'Sai covers all of those bases very well and allows Trashy to use the information that he has to actually follow the enemy jungler around. It's not so much a carry jungler, but it's very good for what Trashy wants.
So the question becomes for Schalke now, what do they take on the other side? They don't have to pick up a jungler now in this rotation, obviously, but the pool has definitely been shortened.
It has been. I mean, there's still the Hecarim, a couple of other picks now. Interestingly, the Gnar was into the Talia that we saw yesterday that Wonder played. So this actually was a matchup that Wonder kind of crushed, saying that. It was a lane swap. Janna died to tower. Didn't manage to keep herself safe and gave Wonder a lead. So maybe we'll see that go slightly differently if the Talia is in fact locked for top lane.
I was going to say, there's always the possibility of mid. That's where we've seen it much more. In the LCK recently, it started coming up. And it has a really unexpectedly high amount of burst, it seems.
Yeah, Sky's been playing a lot of that pick over in LCK, and the games that we've seen has really good roaming potential, really good ganks for bottom lane, that kind of thing, but as well, the burst you're talking about, that WE combo in the lane is fairly difficult to read if you're not in the right position to avoid it, so it is a fairly decent lane into the Azir as well. So there are 2 options here that Splyce have for this Talia. That is the lane matchup that we've commonly seen over in LCK, and it's gone Talia's way a lot of the time.
See if that is going to be the case, or if it's Wonder that'll be throwing those rocks. Kabi gets the Jhin locked in for himself. There's a lot of damage on this side of Splyce right now. The Trashy occupying that tank role. Only a few questions left to answer on Schalke's side. They've got their support locked in, so don't be fooled by the Braum hover. Still want to see what we have in the jungle and at 80 carry.
So there is a fair amount of versatility now on the Splyce lineup. They could be looking to run a side lane setup here with the Rek'Sai and with the Talia, regardless of whether it's mid or in the top lane, which leads you to question what the next pick is going to be. Yesterday, Splyce ran a Kassadin that would give them more mobility and somebody that can build somewhat more tanky if they're looking for a mid laner. If they're looking for top lane, looking at what you could run into Gnar, maybe we'll see the likes of a Rumble coming out from Steve, but honestly, I think they'll probably just take the, for Wonder, maybe they'll just take that Talia up there, as we've seen time and time again.
Well, now they know what Splyce, or rather Schalke, is bringing to the table. The Ashe is locked in, Grog as well.
So I'm going to talk about a hover here because there is another potential that we missed. Karma could go mid here, and the Jhin Scion lane that we've heard so much about could very well be the pickup. This might actually be the game where we see it. I generally don't like to talk about it until it's locked in, but Jhin and Sion have so much kill pressure in lane, it is unbelievable. You kick a minion at somebody, follow it up with the W, the Q lands from Sion, and suddenly you're locked in place for over 4 seconds and you get chunked down. I want to see it, and I want to see whether it works. Will it be this game is the question.
Well, it's definitely been something that teams have been opting to ban against Splyce, and if that gets locked in, well, unfortunately it doesn't, so we don't have to talk about it now, but the Kassadin's the choice. We do have Taliyah back up in the top lane.
I hate it when option A was the first one. We were talking about the Kassadin, about how they ran it yesterday. They could run it from more side lane. I wanted to see it, but oh well. It was not to be in this
Wait another week for the zombie bot lane.
Well, maybe we'll see it next game.
Yeah, you know, maybe. There's still plenty to play for sure. So Splyce and Schalke, this matchup definitely looking pretty hype right now. And there's just a whole bunch of damage on Splyce's side. Schalke's definitely not hurting for it, though. They have some ways to catch and destroy.
And really good team fight setup for Schalke. When you look at how they want to win this game, they've got engage coming from pretty much every single champion here. For Splyce, it's a lot more about dragging Schalke across the map. Don't let them group. Do not give them team fights and look for objectives over on the side lanes. Then regroup behind Schalke with the Taliyah, with the Kassadin, with the Rek'Sai. Bring them in, start the fights.
As Yamato and Nif shake hands walking off the stage. Their job done for this game. It'll be interesting to see who's able to come up on top in this one. Very, very close in the standings, these two, despite the heartbreak Schalke suffered yesterday. Now, if you think they're going to be able to come back and give Steve a birthday victory here in game number 1, tweet hashtag S04 win at LoL eSports, or will Splyce continue their hot streak? It'd be number 6 if they do it. Hashtag SBY win. And we're about to find out if this Taliyah is going to make another big impact.
We'll keep a track of that. Obviously, it's one of the champions we've only seen a handful of times here in Europe. We are getting ready to go in, but we do have a very brief moment, hopefully, before we actually get things started with a pause.
Theory crafted up for me.
Okay.
We talked about what Splyce's composition wants to do. Talk me through a little bit more of Wonder in this Taliyah role in the top lane specifically, because we talked about the flex possibility that didn't come to be.
Well, that's one of the scenarios here that is slightly different, because he's picking a mage top laner that, yes, has a lot of potential to cross the map, but also isn't going to be particularly tanky at the same time. It's more of a damage role that we're seeing come out for it. So that's why we see it supplemented with the likes of a Rek'Sai, with a Kassadin, who naturally gets fairly tanky as well. But for Wonder, if he gets ahead like he did yesterday, Schalke are going to have a fair amount of trouble actually keeping his damage down, because Taliyah from the top lane typically is building the same kind of build that a mid laner would, so you get a lot of damage, a lot of potency when it comes to being out on a side lane in a 1v1 and trying to hold on to that if Schalke actually can. So we'll watch it. This is only the second game we're seeing from Wonder. The crowd are getting baited. We're not quite ready to go in again.
They're getting excited.
Yeah.
Difference, come on there, Stress. I mean, it's nice to see Schalke and Splyce both kind of like, not just building up obviously with fans, but building up in their playstyle, building up in variety. We talked about how many unique top laners they both kind of brought to the table. One reason we wanted to zero in on that matchup. And of course, how much people like to say Schalke's top laner's name. I won't say it anymore. Also, the global pressure you touched on for Splyce is kind of augmented here because they've got the double teleport set up. Obviously, it's something you want to run on the Kassadin, but
the funny thing, Pyra, is I can see where you're going on the double TP. It's great. The double TP is good too.
I saw the look in your eyes that said, don't go there.
No, it's not don't go there. It's they've got 2 TPs. They've got a Kassadin who's incredibly mobile as it is. You've got a Rek'Sai with an ultimate. You've got a Taliyah with an ultimate. This is not just 2 TPs, Pyra. This is a lot of mobility.
Well, okay, so you've got Weaver's Wall, you've got Void Rush. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get across the map.
And it's not only get across the map, it's get in behind the enemy. Because if Taliyah can cut them off, Rek'Sai goes in, gets the unbar on multiple people. You can follow up with Jhin. Karma can allow you to reposition. So it's a very temperamental composition, but could be a very fun one to watch as we get into this.
Well, I think both these two teams are looking to have a lot of fun. The crowd's looking to see how much it's going to shake out, how much fun that's going to be. We are finally, after our pause, heading onto the Rift, and here we go. Schalke versus Splyce.
I'm looking forward to this one. Should be a good setup. There's a couple of things that could go wrong for Senkux on the rest of Splyce if Senkux gets targeted out here. Obviously, Kassadin has a fairly safe 1-6 now these days. But if he gets ganked a lot, 3-6, and gets put behind, it is still the old adage of Kassadin. Mickey wants to go aggressive here.
Yeah, he's got the karma. Spraddle does manage to swim away. through the river. Rallas and Spraddle there will be able to clear off the first ward as things start. And we don't see the makings of any lane swap, just a little bit of shenanigans and love taps back and forth.
I kind of want to see standard lanes, because I want to see how Talia lanes into Na. It's not a matchup that we've seen too much, and I hope viewers will excuse me, because we finished last night, we went straight home and came straight to the studio, so I was casting with you on the other stream while Splyce
It's just
were playing
one long
Talia.
day, in all honesty. Yeah,
So
I kind of missed out on it too.
I haven't caught all of the nuances from yesterday's game, so please bear with me while we watch this match.
Wonder was kind enough to lock it in today, so
Yeah,
we get to understand a bit more at the same time. We do actually see the swap coming in, though, at the end of it all, but it also looks like Rallas and Spraddle are going to mash this, so we're going to end up in Australia lanes.
But they're also the kind of standard setup where we get the lane matchups, we get to see it. So you can see Jin Karma going to go looking to invade, stop a Gromp start, but Schalke have already pulled back away from that. Means Cobby and Mickey are going to be a little bit late. But look, Wonder's already down in the bottom lane, already there, getting the first creeps, getting the first push. Could be a fair amount of damage traded onto Splyce as they try and enter the lane here. Look, you can see Cobby gets tagged by the volley.
Yeah, they've got a lot of damage themselves. Spraddle and Rallas are actually split up here, but they give way better than they take. And to start things off, they're getting the bully on.
Getting the bully on. There you can see the worked ground. Those of you that maybe haven't seen a whole lot of Talia, of course that will manipulate a Q.
It's pretty cool on that skin.
And what it does, yeah. If you cast Q not on work ground, you fire 5 shots. If you only cast it on work ground, you fire 1, but get a little bit of mana back. So, Mickey caught up in the top lane.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage on him. He's going to have to nom a biscuit to get some of that back here. Rallas and Spraddle really pushing them back, and Steve, he's holding out under tower for now. Everything else pretty standard as we get into this laning phase. Cobby gets caught on the bubble, does not take a volley shot. Safe and sound behind the minions, but they are very low.
Yeah, they are kind of struggling at this point to keep up in farm, but it's not necessarily about the farm. They are trying to stay up with the experience here as well. Trashy's going to try and assist only on the 1 buff, so this is a little bit of a differently timed gank to normal. They can set up the Jin lockdown. This could be an early first blood.
Here he goes, the bubble, and he's going to flash in, gets exhausted, but they've got fish on the menu. It's first blood, over to Mickey X.
Good punish from Trashy, utilizing the early gank pressure out from this Rex side. Only had 1 buff, but it was all he needed at that point to get himself into the lane. Good follow-up from Cobby to get that lockdown, and good early kill to start. Yes, it goes over to Mickey, but still it's going to help out in that duo lane.
Yeah, Splyce. It's worth noting the last time these two teams met, it was quite a while ago, but it did go Splyce's favor. Schalke, they're going to want to try and catch up the standings this game, but if they can't knock out an equalizer in this week, it'll make it harder for them to pass a team like Splyce and try to get good pole position for playoffs. They're definitely one of the teams that's gunning for that right now.
Yeah, gunning for it. And honestly, coming into this split, I don't think we really would have expected that. Splyce were one of the teams that perhaps made the least changes, changing their support, and we were like, okay, not sure how we feel about that.
The least changes on the roster, right?
Right. But the most changes when it comes to growth and behind the scenes, and that really has been the key for when you're watching Splyce as to what they've improved on. It's like, hey, they actually know how to play the map a little bit better than they were before. And it rounds out a lot of their individual talent that we started to see shine through the spring split, and they make for a much more well-rounded team than we were seeing last split.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to see their evolution as a squad coming into this summer split and to see what they're able to do going into a playoff situation. Because remember, this is only their second split. They've not had a chance to showcase a postseason for themselves. Still a lot of league to go before that happens, but they're certainly on track for it right now in this game. A little bit, even as Gilius gets a cheeky smite. There's been a lot of smites where people just walk up and steal stuff.
Well, that was an easy walk up and steal because Senkux doesn't have his 6 yet, only level 4 in this game, so can't Rift walk over for the damage to actually secure it. Also, the fact that he just wasn't there to throw out the Null Sphere as well. So, fairly easy one, well timed by Gilius, just recognizing that Senkux was off the map.
So, Splyce get a little taken away from them here. Senkux wants to maybe get a little bit of revenge onto Fox. He does have a level disadvantage for the time being, but this is, like you said, kind of a safe thing for Caston, very safe for Azir pre-level 6 in general.
And he's also now at a CS disadvantage because of the way that he recalled. Bort tried to go blue and didn't TP back into the lane at any point. It means that he's fairly far behind. Normally the advantage in the laning phase for taking teleport is that you basically get a free recall. You get 1 in the laning phase and it allows you to shove out and kind of get ahead on farm. This game, not the case. Senkux wanted to save that TP for a play, so we'll see if it has an effect. Perhaps looking at top lane would be the area that it would, because he's trying to shove Fox back to give him the space to do so. But Trashy doesn't look like he wants to go aggressive in the top lane yet. Maybe after Wolves we might see that play, but it is still fairly risky without seeing Gilius first.
Well, this is one thing we commended Splyce's composition for, being very global oriented, able to get across the map very quickly, but there'll still be some time before they want to make these big flashy plays. Now Trashy is heading towards Gilius, and he might want to try and grab the crab back for himself. And now he's actually in a fight here in the Rift Herald pit.
He's out.
He's perfectly fine.
And one of the reasons here why there wasn't an attempt at a gank top lane is you can look down the levels. If you were to skip back in time about 20 seconds, Senkux and Wonder weren't quite level 6. Neither is Trashy, Cobby not level 6, neither is Mickey. They also wanted to go back and buy. So at that point they didn't feel overly confident that they can go for that play. Cobby and Mickey recalled out of the lane, didn't want to get caught out perhaps by Mr. Rales having you know, a decent trade potential and an army being there to stop them. So didn't want to make an aggressive under the tower dive, which I think is fair for Splyce. Now they're going to be in a lot better a position when it looks towards trading and fighting, because you need more time on this Kassadin.
Yeah, well, it's only 7 minutes in. I feel like there'll definitely be a lot more time to come, but it's definitely been one of those slower starts. Bullying in the top lane and the equalizing answer onto Spraddle all aside. Steve is actually definitely has work cut out for him dealing with this Taliyah. You can see the CS differential starting to climb there. And he gets a breather.
He does get a breather at this point, and one thing that Trashy, the jungle side of things, is going to be able to assist him with now that he's got a Sightstone is that vision control on the lower side, if that's where Trashy wants to focus his work. Trashy's picked up the Sightstone before finishing his jungle item. There are two schools of thought when it comes to Rek'Sai, depending on how the early game has gone, either pre or post jungle item for that Sightstone. Early on is what we see junglers like Maxwell, like Trashy, actually pick up for themselves. It allows you to control the vision for your lanes a lot better than having your own survivability, and that is a conscious choice that Trashy makes to make sure his lanes are in a safe spot from the enemy jungler.
That suits the Trashy style as well. He's very much that supportive jungler, and being the primary tank for this team as well, role-wise, is kind of suited him well. Although he's yet to really have much of an impact in that bottom side, does get a fair amount of vision cleared out, and look at how much Splyce have actually gotten their sights up in this top side.
Yeah, a lot of vision control, 2 Sightstones out already, but I was going to say, is it Steve's birthday or is it Trashy's? He just got 2 free pink wards cleared out of the
well, he got a present
either
way. Schalke, I don't know if they meant to give him that one.
See if he re-gifts it to Steve later in the bottom lane. We'll have to track that one. Not a whole lot of action outside of that first blood for now, but again, as we said, Splyce wants a little bit more time, and honestly, their composition comes into its own much later into the game than we are right now. Once you've got the outer towers down, your side laners can push the waves out and then cut in through the enemy jungle and come in for the flank on the fights. It's a lot more of an optimal play to do that rather than try and TP in from the front and go. That's not exactly what you want from this, so Splyce have options if they can control the vision at least.
Now, certainly doing a good job of it here. Steve will get bopped up onto the well, it's now worked ground, but I was going to say the landmines. Yeah. Is that too cliche?
Nice little combo though. It's fairly obnoxious to lane against, and it's actually fairly difficult to do for a noob like me. The number of times I was trying to use that seismic
shove. It happened against me a lot, by the way. I had a Taliyah support the other day on the other side, and it was pretty brutal.
It's a fairly difficult one to hit, but once you've got it down, is really frustrating to lane against. The damage that comes out from those mines is fairly frustrating. Steve is coming back to lane. Hang on,
well,
here's Trashy.
They're going for the gank squad. Steve instantly hops and flashes out of danger, but close call for him.
Early flash, didn't want to get caught out by the pushback from that seismic shove. Wonder would have had it available. But look at the CS disparity. We were talking about this matchup and how yesterday we saw it perhaps go one way because of a Janna kill that really shouldn't have gone over to Wonder. Wonder is crushing this match right now.
Oh yeah, and he's not just showing it on the tower damage, but in what he's been able to do to Steve, and the CS numbers are a big part of it. Just getting word, by the way, we're getting joined by everyone from Stream 2, so welcome over to EU LCS 1, where Schalke and Splyce are only about 10 minutes into this game. It has been a fairly quiet affair so far. Senkux gets his blue there. He was denied his first because Gilius decided to take a bit of a trip and got himself a reward for it. But it's been very, very close with the exception of Wonder really giving Steve a hell of a birthday hassle.
For now, and you can see Steve is going to give him a present in the form of a proto belt. Yesterday, we saw Wonder go towards the Morellonomicon as a first item. Interestingly enough, Froggen on some of his public accounts has been spamming Tilia overnight, trying to do as many builds as he possibly can.
Yeah, he's a fan of the jetpack.
I've seen like Leandri's proto belt, Ralai's, like all different starts from him. So interesting to see that proto belt, like on Rumble, is a viable option for Tilia in the top lane as well. Close some of that distance, but here comes Schalke closing distance on mid lane tower.
Yeah, they've got a lot of damage here. Trashy's coming for damage control, but will it be enough? The Weaver's Wall is activated. Separates everybody, and Fox is going to have to cruise over it. No one's going to get bopped by the combo.
I like it. Wonder chooses not to ride the wall. All it is just a defensive wall. Cuts them off. You shall not pass at that point, and no tower for Schalke.
It's hard to get through that and start taking down the objectives. They need a Horn of Jorman for it. Or at least a few seconds till it falls.
Oh, that's funny. I thought we were... I honestly thought...
I thought I was plumb out, to be honest, but no.
Considering our location, I thought we were going a different way and going like a little bit more historical with walls. But for now, maybe we'll leave that one for another game for later. But nevertheless, Wonder with a nice wall, didn't ride it. It was the right decision. Didn't actually want the fight here. And honestly, we hadn't really considered that as a possibility. A lot of the time we see the Tilia use that wall. It's to come in behind people and actually start to gank off. Very rarely to disengage, so nice little play there.
Yeah. And as a result, they keep their tower alive for now. Trashy looks to contest on this red buff. Gilius will get the smite off, and Curtain Call's coming in. Rala's in Spraddle. It's going to be canceled there.
Yeah, what happened there was the initial hit from Mickey allowed the W follow-up from Jhin, and it kind of baited them into thinking Ralez was on his own in that lane, so wanted to put the damage down. As soon as Spraddle came out and showed he could block the shots, there wasn't too much more from that. Gotta be careful of that arrow as a follow-up there. Mr. Ralez did not take that.
Wonder
quizzical.
Will be able to finish off this turret. Steve has definitely had a real hard time. First objective in this game going over Splyce's way in the bottom side. Wonder just keeps on pressuring here, and he's going to get some help from Trashy. Steve will have a hard time to push back against it. You can see where the vision started to shift down into this jungle. And Schalke are stacking pretty heavily on the top side.
And look at this, every time they try and make a play on the bottom side, Schalke are making good plays towards mid lane. This time, Wonder can't stop them from doing it. The damage was already done to the tower, so they take the lead that they've had from Fox in the middle lane, and are now going to push Senkux even further back. The danger for Schalke right now is that they allow the rest of Splyce and Senkux to sit back and actually not do anything for a little while, and they don't punish it for them. So if Splyce are given time, this Kassadin will get extra time to get into the game, already had his rod completed. So Schalke need to keep this kind of constant momentum, constant pressure up.
Well, they're certainly on track to do it right now. 1,000 gold is the lead. It may not be super significant, but they are slow and steady, just pushing their edge here. Wonder will back away, able to spend some of that hard-earned gold for himself, as he's still 30 CS over Steve in this game. Fox heading back towards the mid lane. The Sun Disc goes down. Sad to say, no more fun.
No more fun, for now at least, as Splyce will be given a little bit of time. But so this is where Splyce kind of want to be, is Senkux goes to the top lane, their duo sits in mid lane, Rek'Sai bounces in between, and Wonder can utilize this laning advantage that he has to kind of always push back Steve. And for Schalke, the way that they're going to have to win this game is by grouping as a team. They need to group as a unit, because this Gnar is never going to be able to contend against Tilia, because Tilia has just been so strong in this game so far that there's really no stopping her. So grouping with a Gnar flank is really their only option here, and if they can somehow get onto Jhin and Karma, that's the kind of fight they need.
Well, you said it in the pick and ban phase that this is a team that has a real high amount of engage potential. Let's see if Splyce gives him an opening here as Gilius gets caught half his health. Oh, he's gonna throw the big barrel, flashing, follows. He does get tagged by one more shot from Mickey X, and that's gonna be the kill.
It was the order of the Lotus Karma, but the order was Spirit Fire at that point, takes him out with a Q over the wall as Mickey X up to 2 kills. The only 2 kills in this game have gone over to the Karma, so allowing Mickey X to be a little bit more mobile on the map with those MOBA boots, plus the Sight Stone.
Well, they are MOBA boots, but every boot in this game is a MOBA boot.
Yeah, Moby boots, sorry.
It's okay, I couldn't help myself there.
It's been a weird day,
yeah.
It's been a long,
LCS is on, it's at a different time.
4 p.m.
Trying to reconcile that in my head. so not used to this still. Mickey X and Kabi, they're going to make work of this turret along with Senkuk's Trashy coming to join the party. And this is a real quick reaction from Splyce here to try and extend their lead up. Really no chance of a contest, and you can see Rallis and Spraddle are going to back away. Another tower over to Splyce.
Another tower, and that is the kind of plays that Splyce need. Now the outer towers on the side lanes are down. Gilius is going to have a lot more trouble, and you can see already when he tries to come out into the river, just the vision control from Splyce is enough to know where he is, pick him off, and put Schalke in a tough spot. They are still down in this matchup, Schalke, and without a good team fight where they group, it will remain this way.
Well, I think just based on the teams head-to-head and how Splyce have kind of developed, they definitely seem to be a team that is a little more clean at executing, a little bit more consistent than Schalke. It's always going to be an uphill climb, especially after what happened yesterday. A really, really rough break for them in game number 1 versus H2K, but you can't afford to fall apart like they did. You have to think Schalke, they're going to be coming into this game thinking we've got to be able to execute quicker and cleaner, see if they can do it. They still got plenty of time, as 16.5 minutes is all we've got on the clock.
Yeah, plenty of time left in this game for both teams to get this working, but again, Schalke are now grouping on one of the teleport users, and they're going to be able to push Senkuk's away from this tower, unless there's a full commit from Splyce.
2v3, but they're spooked. Schalke's going to back off, and meanwhile, Steve...
Wait, Wonder used his ult.
We need to see that one again.
Hang on, so Wonder used his ult to get towards red buff? We are going to need to see that again, because that is not a kill that should have happened. Wonder is like way ahead in this lane matchup.
Yeah, I wonder what that was.
Use his proto belt, didn't use his flash? Was he low to red?
Maybe he was watching top lane too.
I mean, possibly, but he just ulted into the enemy jungle on the bottom side. That is so weird. I'm trying to CSI the scene, we'll get that in a moment, but the hold was top lane from Schalke. From Splyce against Schalke. Schalke didn't get punished too hard from it. I really want to see it.
All right, here we're going to roll this one out.
So, Wonder catches Steve, so the damage comes out. This is why Wonder then goes through on his ultimate.
And we don't get to find out.
We're not getting the end of that.
On the next time. It's a cliffhanger.
That was a good one. That was a good one. I hope we get that full replay.
Well, we at least get some more action as Steve and Meganar is going to get caught out by Trashy. Mickey X is here for the follow-up as well. And Kabi is collapsing. Flash away, and there's the wave. Will they ride it? It's going to be enough for Steve to get away with the help of Spraddle.
Oh, it's kind of been a bit of a stalled moment for Splyce here. They haven't got a whole lot more when it comes to their kills, any kind of objectives. Schalke with the 1 kill from that bottom side mistake, but Splyce are going to look to turn it around. Bit of an Ocean Drake for themselves here, so decent Drake to start. Nice little prize will give them regeneration, which allows them in the side lanes, obviously, when they attack away from combat, to have that extra regen. I'm taking a look on your screen as you are so gracious to show me, Pyra. I'm going to report back on the finding.
All right, well, while Professor Stress is at it,
okay.
we get to play out. Okay, here we go. Once again, starts out, Steve gets chunked pretty low, but look at that Narbar, it's getting close up there.
So Wonder now rides the wall in. Yeah, it's the Narbar that does it. But okay, Wonder missed the damage, did not respect the Narbar. And, I mean, that's one of the real tough parts about running a mage in the top lane that does not build tank, is you are unable to take on like a Meganar when you get smashed into a wall and the damage follow-up comes out.
1v1 me on my birthday. Steve knows better, or Steve rather, has much better to say about that.
Yeah, he got a shiny Hex Drinker for his birthday. It kept him in good shape. All the other kids
He's gonna bring the hammer down too. He's got a Frozen Mallet. It's gonna be tower now for Schalke. They get number 2 for themselves, so starting to close that gold gap a little bit more. And Steve, he's playing with some more Moxie after that 1v1. I think he's happy with what just happened.
It's kind of apt how this game has started. As I was going to comment that the last time I saw somebody with this control of the Earth and that domination over territory was Kuvira, but I guess this kind of has ended that way as well.
It's been a while since Avatar. Are you saying Steve is Korra?
Well, I was saying the actual downfall there ends up fairly similar. The Kuvira overextends and no spoilers.
Well, speaking of elements, Cloud Drake will be the next, but that's a while before anyone's really going to be too interested in it.
There's Schalke Nulfear right now. Pyro. Last split.
Fine, Stress.
You think you can make
Have it your way.
puns? I'll one-up you.
Have it your way. Oh, don't worry. I'll go back to the drawing board. Okie doke.
The drawing board.
I do actually have a drawing board.
Well, at this point, what we do have is Splyce again running this side lane composition, trying to get themselves out there. You can see Cassidin pushing up. A little bit more fear, perhaps, for Wonder, where you look at exactly how he's playing.
Sometimes you have to wonder where he's going.
Yeah, and I do that every game.
All right. So, back to the action, though. Senkux was leading a wave of minions up towards topside, but you can see already Schalke are looking to collapse on this one. Splyce are still happy to drag them across the map. I mean, a few mistakes they made, but they're holding on to a gold lead here. And it seems like they're not really getting challenged too much by Schalke,
well,
outside of individual mistakes.
That's really their objective in this, is don't ever allow Schalke to group effectively. This is the kind of composition that, or at least a grouping composition was undone yesterday when we were watching the G2 series that wanted to group together, and honestly they just kind of fought back and didn't really let them group. So when we look at yesterday's series and today's, it's fairly reminiscent, but Schalke are looking at trying to group around Steve at least, but Steve is still struggling somewhat over in the side lane, still down in CS, but he is managing to hold Wonder from being able to push that turret down, which is a fairly frustrating factor for him, I believe.
Wonder's not been able to work as much ground, at least not over on Steve. The combo missed on that last engagement there, and he's just kind of respecting the distance a little more. Give him some personal space for that, and it's been enough to really stop him from pushing too far. You see, Will, where Splyce is attempting to kind of ingress in to the enemy territory. They've got a lot of Rek'Sai tunnels around the edge of the jungle. They've still got some deep wards here, really on both sides, but Schalke kind of stalled them for pushing any further.
And what we haven't seen coming from Schalke too much yet is the engage coming from Mr. Rales. Like, he hasn't been firing off Ash arrows when somebody was out of position. Granted, a lot of that is Splyce being fairly mobile. Flashes are up. You're very unlikely to hit just a stray arrow out of anywhere. But the more this game goes on, the more opportunity that Mr. Rales is going to have for that. And I'm interested to see how they actually use that, because, you know, there are teams that just throw out the Ash arrow. They're like, okay, it's low cooldown, let's throw it out. Let's just try and get a fight started. And then there are teams that are a lot more calculated with that Ash arrow. Only throw it out when you know you're getting the engage. And if that is the case, they're very rarely going to find those opportunities against a Cassidin, against like a Talia, like all of these champions with a little bit more mobility.
Yeah, Gilius, speaking of mobility, he hops over the wall and looks to take on Trashy, but I don't know if he wants to tangle with too many enemies close by. Still, Schalke moving as a unit in here. They're going to try and push out in that mid. The tower's been long gone. Let's see if they can get anything else done. Splyce mobilizing for the defense. I mean, this is a team that they can scramble very quickly. We talked about the multiple globals, the teleport. Oh. There's that arrow, but it's going to go right by the left ear of Mickey X. But Gilius, he's going to go in and try to separate him from the pack. In comes the wave. Kabi's going to have to ride it, and Fox needs an auto, but he goes so deep, divides. He does get the kill, but Trashy manages to finish him off in the end, and Wonder on the backside, flashing away from Steve, sending out a volley. In comes Senkux, and this game has blown wide open as they turn towards Throttle, taking him down, and Wonder starting to get on a roll here. Mickey at his back, Senkux at his front, and Steve's down. That's an ace at 23.
Splyce couldn't, or Schalke couldn't quite get the fight finished before the rest of Splyce actually regrouped on the teleports and the ults behind them. So Splyce now even looking for the Baron for themselves. Trashy is back healthy and is looking to close in. They have a fair amount of damage here and can just juggle it up whilst Schalke are still respawning. So Baron going over to Splyce 24 minutes in. Gilius nowhere near in time. Should not be able to get anything here to steal.
It's a slower Baron. It's only 24 minutes, but still, Gilius coming up after the end of it all. Shouldn't be able to get there in time, as you said. Spotted on the ward. It's smited down. Wonder even gets the last hit on it. And with the empowered recalls, they're able to get out with exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, that was everything that Splyce wanted. Look at how long Kobe actually survives for here. So Gilius gets a great start to this fight. Ult comes out, catches Kobe. Mickey managed to get himself away. But look, Fox goes all the way in. At that point, doesn't quite connect until the end of the ultimate, and it's enough time that Fox gets taken down. Wonder is in the fight already. Senkux is here. You can see Trashy was still alive at the end of this, so was able to get himself back out for that Baron. And it doesn't matter that Steve is fairly tanky and Meganar form here, because he's got 2 carries and a support running around him. There's no way he can deal with all 3. And that's the end of the fight. Results in the Baron for Splyce.
Yep, it'll pull one over on them this time. Let's see what they can get done with the push. It looks like we're settling in for a good old 1-3-1. Senkux is going to be hard to contest with, but Wonder as well. Thunderlord's procced on. He's got more than one element in his back pocket, but he's going to be in some serious trouble here as he gets knocked within a tower range, and Steve will take him down with the help of his trusty boomerang.
Wonder a little over-aggressive. Oh man, I love that sign.
How many E's can you count?
I didn't have it on screen long enough. My vision is also really bad, so I can't see it while we're in here. But
I'm sure it was enough. That's the correct answer. Maybe not.
Was it 40G? That's normally the answer to everything.
Life, the universe, and everything. But the answer for Splyce is another tower. They get one on the mid-outer. Schalke cannot contest here. And the 1-3-1's actually been stopped for just a moment. They may actually opt for this Cloud Drake. It's very easy for them to take right now just to clear it out and try to get a new one.
Finally, though, Steve has turned this lane matchup back around. He's got himself a lead. It's because Wonder's kind of been going ham in the 1v1 rather than just pushing in the Gnar and being content with it. Wonder is just going aggressive and thinking he can kill him before Mega Gnar actually procs, and Steve just punishes him for it twice now.
It's the kind of thing that, you know, Splyce as a team, obviously they've not been making massive mistakes altogether. The decision-making seems to have showed up, but those are those individual mistakes. This is the kind of thing that can still hold them back against better teams, even against Schalke, though, as Trashy goes in here. And maybe wishes he didn't. Ash Arrow's going to connect. They have the bubble. It's not going to land. And that will actually be the end of that one. The Siege is back on mid. They're going to try to get some more chip damage on it while Wonder's still doing work up top. Schalke will push them back for now.
We've seen a lot of teams running this style where they want to run double TP or high mobility, and all they do is sit mid. One thing Splyce have been doing pretty well is Wonderware is continuing to push the top lane. You can see Senkux bouncing between bottom and mid. Yamato likes what he sees here with Senkux going back down to bottom lane. Doesn't have TP, but he's Cassidin. He's mobile enough to cut through the jungle fast enough that he and Wonderware can group just in time for the tail end of a fight. It's the Karma that makes this also fairly difficult to punish, because she's there providing Jhin that extra escape as well, the movement speed, a little bit of peel. You've got the heal coming out from Kobe as well, so there is enough security to keep them alive. Now Trashy just comes to the bottom side, assists with a tower push, and it's an objective over to Splyce. Good usage of this mobility out of the team.
Dragging Schalke once again around the map. They still get a little bit more damage dealt onto this tower. The Baron power play, 2,500 gold they managed to pick up in the interim. We're approaching the 28-minute mark. And Splyce are still controlling this lead, keeping it and extending it. Not really letting Schalke get anything but a strike kill here or there. For now, it'll be hard for them to come back into this game. The way Schalke, or the way Splyce is playing, rather.
And they've rarely let Schalke have a fight. They had one in the mid lane. And from that fight, it was almost an overextend. Here comes the disengage from the tower.
Curtain call, they're gonna snipe over the wall and just take it out. Zoning Schalke away, clearing waves. And they're able to get away without taking any damage.
Again, they use an ultimate in exchange for the tower, which for now is worthwhile. They use two ultimates when you look at the Jhin ult as well, but the key factor in that one being one of their mobility ults to utilize the global presence. That's not going to punish them right now because Splyce are somewhat grouped together. This is not the kind of fight that Splyce really want, though. They're going to try and take it. That is a long way back in the lane. Azir Sundisk has come up.
Oh, man.
Splyce may just want to bail out of this.
He's going to have to rift run if he wants this fight.
Schalke, they are still 7k behind those, so Splyce should have a little bit of potency, but you can see Splyce aren't taking the fight head on. They just want to back away because they don't want to fight against this composition.
Woo! Kabi flashes the arrow. Okay, they're going to see if they can fight this one out, but you're right. Don't straight up it. Just keep on poking away and collapse the trap. You see Senkux and Trashy around the side. They don't want it, though.
So many teams in that scenario would say, screw it, we use the TP, go for it, we're far enough ahead, we can play this out. This is Splyce, a very different position from what we've seen in previous splits, where normally they were a little hot-headed, going aggressive. I like it, they just back away. The fight wasn't for them. Schalke were never going to get much more on the objective counter from that kind of play, so Splyce get themselves the dragon, they back themselves away, and they live to fight another day. There's no real way that Schalke can get back in the game properly from that.
Yeah, I mean, they saved the tower, crucially, as well, for the cost of that teleport. And you're starting to see this Splyce squad maturing. Rookies no more. They don't dive in heedless. How much of that is the experience? How much of that is Yamato talking and making gifts of himself? Having gifts made of him.
I don't think the gifts really helping on a strategic level.
No, probably
not. TPing a top lane.
Oh, okay, Fox wants to chase this one out. TP spent by Steve, but Wonder is here. Would be a 2v, well, 3. And add the rest of Splyce to the party. They find Steve jumping on him, trying to get more damage, and he flashes away to save his own life. A little low on health, no, is him and Fox. Splyce trying to look for an opening to push another tower here. They might get it.
That was a really weird TP out from Steve. He could have stayed in the bottom lane, pushed down bot tower to get Schalke a little bit of gold generation, and then look to TP top, because Steve wasn't in Meganar. He didn't have the ability to engage. Remember, TP's on a longer cooldown. Ash Arrow has hit Senkux, but there's the wall. Gilius is trapped.
Oh, he can't get onto the other side right now. Not enough damage being dealt to him, not a lot of a minion wave, but there is a big barrel popping the rest of Splyce to one side, and it's gonna be Gilius eliminated as he gets seismically shoved to his own demise. Wonder still pushing away the waves. Steve trying to boomerang it out, but this is gonna be tough to hang with. Waves are cleared here, but not enough damage dealt to the tower, and Senkux actually just says, forget it, we're gonna shove mid.
At this point, with the amount of damage on Wonderwear, is it a seismic shove or a seismic toss coming out here? Because he is slamming them right back down to earth.
Oh, it does more than 40 damage, but I get the analogy. Baron's live, though, and look at where Splyce are headed. So much mobility, and they don't miss a beat.
They don't miss anything. Right now, Kassadin zoning away as well. Splyce continuing to ramp up the pressure here. And honestly, I wouldn't say that Schalke have done too much wrong in the last couple of phases. Perhaps the Steve TP up to the top lane was one of those areas. Steve's punished Wonderwear fairly well as well, but this is how difficult it can be to run a team fighting composition into a 1-3-1 setup that is 1-3-1ing effectively. And the three-man stack is difficult to lock down, because all it is Mickey and Cobby just kind of standing far enough back that they can keep mid lane pressured, but also in a safe zone. So Senkux gets hit by this. They use the wall to back them away, and Splyce are already grouped for this fight. They're able to take down Gilius fairly easily once this fight starts, and the rest of Schalke don't even properly engage upon this, because all of the rest of their ults have been used apart from the Azir one, and Steve isn't in Mega now.
That's pretty much the story of it all. Splyce have been controlling this pace, and they're slowly squeezing, suffocating Schalke out. Maybe they need to change what kind of snake's on their logo.
Yeah, perhaps that's the case.
The 1v2, it looks like, as Senkux says, thank you for the assist, but I will take the kill.
But the assist is now just going to allow Trashy to stick around in that bottom side jungle. They haven't got a whole lot of vision control right now, but that's because they haven't gone back to buy in a little while. There's no real wards left on a lot of the side stones, so Splyce will have to regen those at some point. But look, now they utilize the Rek'Sai down on the bottom lane while they've got the Rek'Sai ultimate. You use Talir up in the top lane, Kassadin goes to mid. There's no TP on Kassadin, and Senkux just came back from the fountain, so he can just Rift Walk down mid lane for a while. Very good usage of this triple global composition. They have the right people in the right place at the right time.
Consistently, they keep on pushing in. 3 fronts right now is the battle, and Schalke are just trying to keep their base alive. They will regen on those turrets, but very, very slowly, and they can't afford to lose any more ground on this one. A massive gold lead for Splyce, and they just keep chipping away at these towers. Arrow is dodged again. Rallis has not been able to hit too much as Senkux deletes him from the map. Spraddle uses Surf, but it's not very effective, and the rest of Splyce are closing in to try and end it right here, right now.
This one's pretty much done. Fox is gone.
Tries to get the divide, but it's not going to be enough. Can't divide if you've only got 0 left to work with. Another inhibitor falls. The mid will as well. And Splyce, there's nowhere to go but Nexus. They're pushing for the end here. Steve is trying desperately to save the day. Even a big Gnar will not be enough to stop Splyce from pushing in to end it all.
Man, this has been a real fun game to watch out for Splyce, at least. Schalke just were never able to group, and Splyce used the global super effectively.
All said and done, they take the game cleanly. 34.5 in game number 1 versus Schalke.
I really liked that game. Like, that was an enjoyable composition to watch from Splyce. Not a perfect game, but I like what they were going for, utilizing the globals. Very rare you can see a team actually do that quite that effectively against a team fighting team. Normally there's an opportunity where an AD carry is a little pushed up, caught out maybe, and you can't stay alive.
They denied them so many times. It was hard for Schalke to really get an edge back into this game. They were starved of gold. When they were able to make a few proactive plays, push up mid when they know they're going for a dragon. Oh, okay, we'll just teleport Kassadin in the back. That scares them off. And like you said, they tempered their own aggression to a level that, we started to expect from them this split, but it's just so it's just so different from what we saw when they were rookies, and it's nice to see this evolution coming out of this team that, in all likeliness, is looking like a good playoff contender.
Really nice. I'm used to casting a lot of EU Challenger series as well, and
That's a bit more action-packed.
That's well, no. What I mean is that's the kind of play where you see the TP come in and they're like, well, let's go for this fight anyway, and they like all fight under a tower that the enemies just put up. So I'm glad to see that Splyce have been making big strides away from that. For Schalke, I think maybe a few more Ash Arrows coming out. They are difficult to land, though, on a lot of these champions.
Well, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You've got to go for more than that. We didn't really see Ralez using it. You don't have to on cooldown, but a bit more often, I agree.
But the other side of that is like Gilius was trying to engage. He was looking for the engages, and a couple of times Wonder was just using the ult, not riding it, just getting that wall up, blocking them from actually starting a fight. And at that point, Gilius is kind of scared because he doesn't know whether he wants to go aggressive. He doesn't know whether he can, whether his team can even follow him. And the one time that Schalke did manage to get it, it was a reach, far too far into the middle lane. In came the TPs, the ults, everything to punish Schalke, and they just could not get their team fights lined up at any point in this game.
So unfortunate game at 1 for Schalke. We'll see if they can bounce back now with Splyce. 1 game up. Let's go ahead and throw it over to the analyst desk to break down how it all happened.
Caught it. Yeah. We're happy to be joined by Mithy here from G2 for that analysis of that game and the rest of the day as well as PGL. Thanks for joining us. Maybe first, what did you think of your games today?
We won, so I'm happy.
Tough games.
Yeah, I think Roca didn't play so good.
Yeah, well, they are a bit down and out. We can talk a bit more about that later on. Now, though, we're going to turn our attention to Schalke versus Splyce, and Splyce again coming out with a victory. How much of that could you foresee by looking at the comps?
The game wasn't decided in pick and bans at all. I mean, I definitely felt like Schalke had enough ways to actually play out the mid game with using the Ashe in the side lane with like assistants pushing the caster in. But the one time they actually managed to push it in and roam mid, we might as well just grab the replay, which basically decided the entire game. Schalke ends up moving to mid lane with the Ashe and Azir and Mithy. Take us through it.
Here, I think after the arrow misses, they should just go bot lane and take the bottom tower, that tier 3, or tier 1. But they instead just overforce in mid, and there's a TP ward behind them. They get double TP'd on, or Talia ults, doesn't matter. They just get collapsed on and just die.
Yeah, and at this point here, actually this fight results in the mid tower dying as well for Azir. So like mid lane, Azir no longer has protection. Kassadin is fed now. Talia was fed as well.
And Nash, no?
Yeah, they got Nash as well from it. So
at this point,
you basically win the entire game because now you have 3 winning lanes as Splyce, and there's nothing Schalke could do at this point.
Another victory for Splyce, and another problem for Schalke. Obviously, yesterday you could say they don't make the right decision in overforcing. You could say that Nexus yesterday, well, they should have gotten it. I mean, it was...
tell me about it.
So do you think that they could make the wrong decisions in the mid game often, and that's the main focus of their problems now? Or
well, the funny thing is, Mithy and I were talking about this during the game, how Schalke seems to be very focused around like early snowballs, especially around mid lane with like Gilius ganking the mid lane. That's what he's talking about himself in like the features, saying, oh, if I get Fox ahead in the mid lane, you know, we win every game. Don't think that's 100% true, but I can see the logic behind it. But as Mithy was talking about himself during the game again, once Schalke gets to mid game, the shot calling and their understanding of how to play the game seems to be suffering.
I mean, I think they have a good idea, but they just need to go a bit deeper into, like, just take things a bit slower. This game, they had a good idea. They kept their mid tower alive. They were playing 1-4 correctly, but they should have just rotated the dual lane after pushing out top into the bot lane and trying to get the tier 1 or tier 3. I actually don't know if it's a tier 1 or tier 3. The outer tower, right?
Yeah,
the first outer tower. And instead, they just overforce mid when both the Kassadin and the Talia can double TP behind them, and the game was just screwed up there. I think it was a good game by them, but then it just died.
yeah, in general, it seems that Schalke seems to pick up a lot of these losses. Giants now jumped over them in the standings. They also just 2-0'd H2K over there. So what is it that there's a difference between a team like Giants, who, if you look at it objectively, doesn't have as strong players individually, I would say, because we looked at Fox yesterday, for instance, even though Knight has been doing well. What's kind of the differences? What should they use to work to their advantage if they can't seem to have the kind of communication get fixed that quickly?
I mean, obviously, it's super hard to say exactly what Schalke needs to fix because a lot of it comes down to you need to have as Mithy was just talking about before, you need to understand like when can you when should you overforce? Almost never. Like,
Yeah.
when should you just take the easy rotation to the side? Because they are a team who likes to play like very forward, aggressive, especially with Gilius leading the charge very often. It becomes very inconsistent because if you keep taking high risk, high reward plays, you will never win every single game. You'll always very often just go like 50-50, and that's why they get a lot of ties as well. So I feel like just a lot of it actually comes into watching replays. I assume you guys are doing that a ton. Whenever you have certain plays, you sit as a team, you rewatch it, you figure out, was this the correct play? Like, not how did we lose the fight, but why are we fighting in the first place is what you got to figure out. And that's the key thing for a lot of these teams. And Schalke seems to just get the fights all the time.
Usually what we do as a team is we don't really look at individual misplays, but we try and look at was our decision as a team the proper decision? Was it right to fight here? Was it right to take this fight? Was it right to do this or do that? And then individual misplay is something that everyone can just look at themselves and just try and fix. And some games I'm going to underperform, some other games someone else in my team is just going to underperform. That's just how a team works, right? So that's kind of how we approach the game, and I'm sure most teams do that too, or I hope so, because the other ways I think is pretty bad. So yeah, I just think Schalke just went too deep, and a team like Giants is, I think, or it just seems to me that they are very good at knowing how to end the game or what to do when they have a lead. And I think that's what is giving them games. A lot of teams are making mistakes. We made mistakes. Giants took a game over us because we screwed up. And I mean, I didn't really watch the H2K series, so I don't want to talk so much, but I'm pretty sure they screwed up and Giants just took over the game and just snowballed it perfectly.
We'll take a look at it later as well. I do want to touch on Splyce, of course, as well. A lot to talk about. Mickey X is our player of the game, consistently growing within that team. We talked about it in terms of a project. You had that project when they come into the LCS, just trying to work on the fundamentals. But it seems like these individual players are stepping up. What is your impression of Mickey?
I think he's going to be the best support in Europe at some point if he gets his brain working together.
So yeah, the main problem when watching Mickey seems to be
Another
like,
problem.
You know, mechanically he's fantastic. Like, mechanically he's doing really, really well. But when it comes to sometimes understanding where to be on the map as a support, like he's a support who dies the most on his own because he like invades in alone, like puts 2 or 3 deep wards when it's a little bit too risky. He ends up dying for that. He plays very aggressive, you know, most of the time. So he obviously ends up losing out here and there. But mechanically, he's so good. And I think the more he gets to play on stage, the more he gets used to also playing like, you know, these LCS games where it's not like a scrim always, because sometimes I feel like he's playing a bit like it is a scrim. That's where I feel like Mickey can keep improving and growing.
It depends a lot on how he approaches the experience he takes, because the experience you get can either hurt you or make you grow. For example, him being over-aggressive, for when I play against him in scrims, I really have a lot to learn because he's very strong mechanically and goes for very like all-ins that I don't expect, and he's just really good. But translating that into LCS, when you go for an all-in and you fail the first time or you fail twice in a row, then you get scared to go for those all-ins again that you did in scrims, and then your whole mindset just crumbles, right? So you need to like find the right point and have the right mindset, and then you can just improve a lot. And I think he has the potential, even though no one likes that word, but I really think he can be the best.
New Mythy.
The new Mythy, Mickey. Wow, we'll see how that evolves and if they can also lock up the match here and game 2. We're going to hit recall and regroup, but when we come back, we will have our final game of the day between Splyce and Schalke. See you in 3.5.
Let's go, Nash, guys.